They sold the house in heaps. Bundles of magazines tied with twine. A laundry basket of mismatched kitchenware. A box of cassette tapes with masking tape labels in a tight, librarian hand, Choir 88, Thanksgiving, voicemail. Mara Lyons wasn't there for treasure. She wanted quiet objects, things that behaved. She was a forensic audio tech by trade. Microphones and noise gates made more sense to her than people did. Her mother had died in March. Since then, silence had felt either too tight or too loose. Objects you could hold were a compromise. "$5 for the lot," said the woman with the cash box, hair in a scarf, eyes harried from haggling. Mara tilted the top cassette and read, Vox 120 answering machine tapes. Someone had written "keep" on the lid in red Sharpie, then drawn a little skull beside it, the sort of joke people make to keep themselves from believing in beliefs. 3, Mara said, by reflex. 4, the woman said, by reflex. Done, Mara said, and put the plastic shoebox in her tote. It was heavier than it looked, full of old air. Outside, dusk had pulled its gray sweater on. The estate sale house was a widow's Victorian with a front porch that leaned, a gable like a watchful eyelid, and a yard full of grass that had given up on being mowed. It scraped at Mara's mind the way certain frequencies do if you don't low pass them. She unlocked her hatchback, set the box carefully on the passenger seat like a nervous passenger, and drove home with the radio off, letting the tires do a metronome on the road seams. Her apartment was a third-floor one-bedroom above a bakery that made the whole stairwell smell like sugar bread regardless of hour. She balanced the box on her hip, fumbled her door open, and set the tapes on the kitchen table. She put on tea and stared at them while the kettle tried to be important. Tapes should be catalogued. She wasn't at work, but work had taught her how to calm herself. She made a grid on a legal pad, label, type, condition, notes. The first few were obvious family holidays, choir practice, a mixtape with Dan/road trip scrawled on it. Then she found the answering machine tapes. 4 of them. Vox 120 in white block print on clear plastic. Each with a little roll of masking tape stuck on the front where someone had written dates, August 8th to August 12th, August 13th to August 19th, August 20th to August 26th, August 27th to September 2nd. The last one had a second notation at the bottom, faint pencil, tomorrow. Mara blew out through her nose. She didn't believe in spooks. She believed in timestamps. She also believed in examining ideas you want to laugh at before you decide whether they deserve it. She dug her old dual-deck player from the hall closet, the one she kept for clients who brought in evidence on magnetic tape instead of drives, and set it on the table. She plugged it in. Its red LED blinked awake like an eye that forgave her for leaving it. She chose August 20th to August 26th, because middle tapes are where patterns live. She pressed play. Static first. Then the faint beep of the answering machine's threshold, then a voice, male, late 50s, nasal and crisp. "You've reached the Ashers," he said. "Leave your message." Beep. A woman, "It's Nancy just checking on the potluck. Don't forget the salad this time, Jim." Then a grandfather's voice, "You never call me back when I'm here, Beatrice." Then a kid yelling, "Grandma," and giggles. Then a man again, serious this time, "This is Dr. Patel from St. Matthew's. Could you call the office?" Mara let them wash past. She kept notes in neat block capitals. She could have scrubbed the audio, denoised it, added harmonic enhancement. She didn't. She wanted it raw. Halfway through the second tape, something changed. Not louder. Not different in content. Different like the way a room feels when someone sets a second chair down in it. Beep. A woman's voice, hoarse with panic. Not the Nancy voice. Not Beatrice. Not a voice that knew this machine. "Please," the woman said. "Please, I need," Static swallowed a word. "You to pick up. Somebody is outside. He keeps," Static. "Through the windows. If you get this," if, the line went quiet for a second. Then, he said, "Tomorrow. I don't know what that means. Please. Please." Beep. Same woman, closer to the mic, breathing hard. "I know this isn't your number, I know, your street is on the way to mine and your porch light is on. If you hear me, pick up. Please." Beep. Her voice again, thready. "If this is a joke, it's not funny." Beep. Then, the man's greeting. "You've reached the Ashers." Mara hit stop. She sat motionless with her fingers on the plastic, as if the tape might run toward her hands. She rewound 10 seconds and pressed play again to hear the static. She listened through it the way she listened to traffic sounds when she track-cleaned police recordings, finding tires in the hiss, asphalt in the roar. In the quiet between the woman's words there was, not silence. A hum. Not electrical, not 60 Hz and friends. A human hum, as in a person making a sound without opening their mouth fully. It vibrated at 130 Hz and then 164 and then settled at 146. Men sit there. Women do too, sometimes. Fear does whatever it wants with pitch. Mara wrote, unknown female caller, UFC. She wrote, background hum. Male? She circled tomorrow and then, to punish the part of her brain that wanted it to be spooky, wrote, stalking, domestic, teen prank, and bored neighbor. She pulled the last tape from the box, the one marked August 27th to September 2nd with tomorrow in pencil, and slotted it in, thumbs suddenly heavy. Play. Normal messages. Groceries, schedules, a complaint about a hedge. Then, the voice. "Please," the woman said. "Please, I need," the same. The same words. The same breath. The same hum in the between. Mara looked down at the date on the masking tape. August 27th to September 2nd. She picked up her phone, checked the lock screen. August 26th. She listened to the end. The last message on the tape had a timestamp beep embedded, the kind cheap answering machines give you if you set them. A female electronic monotone. Saturday, August 26, 8:59 p.m. The woman's calls were stamped. Sunday, August 27, 9:07 p.m. 9:21 p.m. 10:13 p.m. Tomorrow. Mara turned the tape over in her hands and laughed, because that is what you do when your scalp crawls and you think if you don't laugh the animal in your chest will open its eyes. Cute, she told the room. Cute trick. She made a sandwich she did not finish. She cleaned the heads on the tape deck because that's what you do when control seems possible. She set the answering machine tapes back in their clear shoebox and put the lid on, and then, because she was rational, took the lid off and put the last tape back in and rewound the woman's first plea 30 seconds and hit play again, searching for a car horn or a siren or anything that would turn terror into a place she could call. When midnight moved the digital numbers to August 27th, Mara's phone chirped a calendar notification, Mom's birthday, repeat. She turned it face down. She did not call anyone. She went to bed and lay there, hands on her sternum, fingers threaded, like an apology. The bakery downstairs piped frosting at 3 a.m. and sighed. The building shifted politely. She slept. At 8:53 p.m., her landline rang. Mara startled, swore, laughed at herself, and walked to the kitchen table with her shoulders up near her ears. No one called the landline. She kept it for gear checks. The only people who had the number were her office and her mother's old cardiology clinic, who still called every October to remind her mother to book a stress test. She picked up. Yeah. Silence. Not the click of a robocall, a human-held breath kind. Then a woman's voice, wrecked. Please, the woman said. Please, I need, static gnashed a word. You to pick up. Mara's knees went watery. She sat because standing had become a flamboyant act she could not justify. Who is this? She said, voice professional without meaning to. You're safe, you're on the phone. Who is this? I shouldn't have, the woman said, words scattered like a box knocked off a shelf. Your porch light was on. Are you home? Are you there? I don't think he's, the hum in the between. 146 Hz, too even for car noise. Too present for a refrigerator. I'm here, Mara said, lying, because she did not know what here meant yet. Where are you? If you can tell me where you are, I can. I'm in my kitchen, the woman said. Dishes clinked, the sound of someone's hand asking a countertop if it's real. I thought, a sob, Mara's throat answered reflexively, a tiny noise a body makes when someone else's grief enters earshot. He's outside. He said, tomorrow. He said he'd come back tomorrow if I didn't let him in today. I didn't. I didn't. What's your name? Mara asked. I'm Mara. What's your name? No answer. Breath. The human hum behind it, soft as someone pressed to drywall on the other side of a room. It's okay if you don't tell me, Mara said. I can help without it, but if I have your address I can. This isn't your number, the woman said, suddenly suspicious, as if waking while speaking. I dialed, she rattled off an unfamiliar number, then added, the Ashers? The people with the dog that barks like a toy? Mara stared at the tape box on her table, at August 27th to September 2nd, at tomorrow. She realized, with the clarity that comes when a nightmare hands you its business card, the woman's messages had been left on the Ashers machine. The estate sale house. This is a wrong number, Mara said. But you reached me, so I'm listening. Can you give me your street? The woman said. Your porch light is on. I don't have a porch light, Mara said. I'm an apartment. Listen to me. If someone is outside, call 911. Call a neighbor. Do you have? I already did, the woman said. They said to stay inside and not answer the door. They said a car is on the way. I don't. There's a shadow under the door. He's put his hand there. He's knocking like he knows me. A laugh then, a raw little thing. It's not funny. What's your name? Mara asked again, gentle. Nora, the woman said. I think I'm going to. The sound went sideways, as if the microphone had tipped in a hand and recorded the ceiling for a second and then the table and then the world. Somewhere, the hum came closer. Nora, Mara said, and tried to reach through plastic and air with her voice. I'm staying with you. Do you have a back door? Yes, Nora said. But it's farther than the front. He's at the front. The back is the yard and the yard is, another breath, this one pulled through a wet throat. Okay. Okay. A rap on wood, the thin, polite sound of a gentleman knuckle. Then, Nora? A man, coaxing. Nora, please. It's cold out here. The hum wasn't a hum anymore. It was a man trying not to hum, trying to be quiet for a joke. Don't, Mara said, her own voice sharp as a mother. Don't open the door. Do you hear me? I'm not, Nora said. Then, smaller, he said tomorrow. Then tomorrow is what he does, Mara said. Today is not his. Outside Mara's window, a bus sighed and closed its doors. The bakery below her stirred a vat of something and sang along to a radio. Upstairs, the washing machine resumed its attempt to escape. The ordinariness of noise felt obscene. Nora's breath filled the line in little bursts. "Okay," Nora said. "I'm going to the back." The phone thumped on a counter. Footsteps. A muffled curse as a hip caught a table. The hum, far at first, then nearer, then back where it had been front door. Mara breathed with Nora, counting her exhales the way you count with a dog to teach it steadiness. "Stay with me," she said, careful to keep fear out of the spaces between words. "Describe the kitchen to me. Put your voice on things." "Yellow tile with black corners," Nora said, voice a little steadier as it anchored itself to surfaces. "A table my grandfather made. A window over the sink you can't open because it swells. My phone is peach." "Okay," Mara said, absolutely ridiculous relief flooding her at the banality of fruit-colored plastic. "That's good. Back door?" A click. A hiss of a seal broken. "Deadbolt," Nora said. "Chain." "Door," a grunt. "Sticks." He knocked again, polite. "Nora?" Mara closed her eyes and pictured the street outside the estate house. 2 jack pines, a sagging fence, a mailbox shaped like a barn. She had never met the Ashers. She could place them on a map of voices. The chain slid. The door opened a hand's width. Cold air moved over a microphone. A night sound snuck in the small, far breath of tires on wet. "I'm in the yard," Nora said. He didn't come around." "Lock it behind you," Mara said. "Go to a neighbor. Don't be a hero alone." Nora made a sound that could have been assent or fear. The door clicked. The chain whispered. Footsteps in grass. A fence board complaining. A dog, in some yard, lifted its voice not to bark but to say "I know." "Nora," said the man at the front door, almost chiding. "Now." The line was a throat. Mara said the only prayer she knew, "Please don't be clever. Be gone." A siren wove itself into the air, far then near. Tires. A car door thumped. Voices, human and official. Nora's teeth chattered into the mic as she tried to answer questions. The hum retreated like embarrassment. A radio barked. The call fell apart into relieved noise. Then the machine that was Mara's landline did what machines do, it caught the absence and clicked toward a dial tone. Mara sat with the phone to her ear and listened to the dead line, as if maybe Nora's breath lived there if you knew where to put your ear. Her other phone, the cell buzzed. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. When the little icon bloomed, she pressed play with reluctance. "You save for inevitabilities." "Ms. Lyons?" A man's voice. Crisp but spent. "This is Officer Mendel at East Precinct. Your number came up on a call for service at a residence that is not registered to you. We'd appreciate a callback." She exhaled, then inhaled, in the ritual known to professionals as getting up. East Precinct smelled like paper warmed by machines. Mara sat in a plastic chair and held her hands in her lap like you do when you want them still. Officer Mendel had the face cops get when they're trying to be mordant and their day won't let them. He tapped a pen on a form because forms are how you put a fence around chaos. "Your number," he said. "Shows on the phone as last dialed by Ms. Nora," he referred to the form. "Caro. Lives 2 blocks from the Ashers' old place. You familiar with Ms. Caro?" "No," Mara said. "I bought some tapes at the Asher estate sale." Answering machine tapes. She almost said I heard her yesterday and then realized yesterday was the wrong word if she was going to be taken seriously. There are messages from a woman matching Ms. Caro voice on one of the tapes. It was labeled for this week. It also had "tomorrow" written on it. She hated how apologetic she sounded at the last sentence. "I archive sound for a living." I recognized her. Mendel's eyebrow did a thing eyebrows do when they want to be a question mark and must settle for an underline. "She called you, but she was trying to call someone else," Mara said. "The Ashers." "They're both dead," Mendel said, not unkindly. "No next of kin in the house. It's been empty pending sale." "She thought their porch light was on," Mara said. "It wasn't," Mendel said. "No power." Mara felt, at once, more and less insane. "Is she okay?" "Shaken," Mendel said. "Didn't want to press charges at the moment. Says it's a misunderstanding. You and I have both heard that one. Officer on scene took a statement and will do a follow-up." "What about the guy?" Mendel tapped the pen. "No one found at the front door or on the street. It was raining enough to make use of footprints optimistic. We'll canvass." Would you like me to bring the tape?" Mara asked. "You could compare. I know chain of custody on consumer media is dubious, but it's ambient, not evidentiary. It could corroborate her calls." Mendel looked at her with the expression of a man who knows courtesy rules and occasionally follows them. "You should bring it by. If there's anything on it that gives time, that helps." "It gives time," Mara said. "That's the trouble." He signed the paper like a man letting a dog out. "Ms. Lyons." She shook his hand. It felt like shaking a desk. At home, she threaded the tape again. She listened to Nora's calls through until the end, stomach knotted, not to hurt herself but to hear what her work had taught her to hear under noises, accidental truths, a breath that tells you a room's size. The hum was always present under Nora. It sat too steady for random. It didn't modulate like television. It didn't live in the spectrum where microwaves leak. It sat where a baritone's throat does when they feign patience. Mara scrubbed through the tape, zeroing in on the hum during Nora's silences. A long enough gap gave you the room more than the person. She took out her laptop, ran the tape through a digitizer, opened her DAW, and built a profile, 146 Hz, a harmonic at 292, and a faint third at 438. A cheap room could produce that, a hallway, a front stoop. So could a chest when someone hums to keep from saying "You're scared that I am outside." She isolated the background during a clatter keys on tile, a pan tapped by a hand to find where it lives. There a faint locational cue. An ambient spike around 700 Hz, reflective, tile or glass. She switched to spectrogram view, came down the slope like a skier, and found a shape in the noise that meant Mara smiled despite herself. Refrigerator door alarm. The kind that beeps when you leave it open. For even beeps at 2.1 kHz, then a small chirp. That brand she'd know it anywhere from a wrongful death case in 19 where the machine had been the witness that refused to break. She wrote on her legal pad, model LBX 18S. She didn't know why it comforted her. It did. Object certainty. Even haunted houses have Kenmore. The timestamps. The machine voice had given them. The woman's calls labeled Sunday, August 27th today over and over, at reasonable intervals. The tape had recorded tomorrow, and the calls had come today. It could be a prank. It could be the Asher's grandson with a clever editor. It could be a glitch in a clock. It could be Nora in danger, now safer. It could be a misfire from grief called Mom's birthday, like a match that likes the fact it has a head. She stood. She put her jacket on. She took the tape in a sandwich bag because sandwiches and evidence share needs. She walked to her car with her keys like spikes in her fist. The Asher's house looked smaller under the daytime sky, the way all monsters do when they must admit they have roofs. The porch sagged politely. The windows reflected sky like they'd been taught by books. The mailbox shaped like a barn yawned a little. A realtor's sign out front declared pending as if a curse had lifted. Mara crossed to the house 2 down, Nora Caro on the mailbox in permanent marker, the family name decal above it, the Caros curling a little at the C. She didn't ring. She sat in her car and watched. No porch light. A curtain twitched, but curtains do. Her cell buzzed. "Cam, you alive? I can see your couch ghost from here, booze." The normal bleed of friend energy. Mara typed, "Later. House stuff. Will explain." Then, because every urge in her body told her to go wait at home and be a dataset instead of a person, she got out of the car and went to Nora's. She knocked once, neither cop knock nor polite. The door opened 2 inches. An eye, bloodshot, gray-green. I'm the wrong number," Mara said. "I can go away. I wanted to say you weren't alone when you weren't alone." The eye considered her. The chain stayed. "You sound older," Nora said. "On the phone you sounded I don't know like a radio." "I do that," Mara said. "In trouble I turn into NPR." The chain slid. The door opened. Nora had the collapsed look people get when adrenaline leaks out, knees thinking about failing, lips confused about thirst. Her hair was half up and half down, as if she'd tried to be a person who does things with hair tonight and then had been reminded hair is decoration for mammals. "Thank you," she said. "I know that's a weird thing to say to a stranger. But thank you." Mara lifted the sandwich bag with the tape. "Do you want to hear something that will make you think time is a rectangle someone folded?" Nora stared at the cassette. "Is that an answering machine tape from the people 2 doors down?" Mara said. "It has you on it. From before you called. Which is impossible, and also true." A laugh moved over Nora's face like wind. "Okay," she said. "Okay." They sat at her kitchen table with a yellow tile with black corners and a window that didn't open because it swelled. The refrigerator chirped at the correct pitch. The peach-colored handset sat in a cradle like a woman resting after a good cry. Mara played the tape. When Nora heard her own first, "please," she made a sound Mara had heard once in the evidence review room when a mother recognizes the shape of her son's breath on a recording. Not grief. Proof. "He said tomorrow," Nora said, flat. "I thought he was just being weird." "He was being weird," Mara said. "And precise." Nora rubbed her temples and squinted at the machine as if it were showing her a form she had to sign. "So what is that?" she asked. "A radio station I got stuck on? A prank? The future?" "I don't know," Mara said, which in her mouth was a sacrament. A car drove past. The house shifted, polite. The tape stopped when it found the end of hunger. Nora poured them both water with the sort of concentration that keeps glasses alive. "I called the police," she said. "They came. The man was gone. They left. It was all very Minnesota." She blinked hard. "I grew up in Ohio. Same thing there, just different vowels." "What did he look like?" Mara asked, aware that sometimes you should not ask and that this was a time you should. "I don't know," Nora said, mortally ashamed by the admission. "I didn't look through the peephole. I saw the shape under the door. The hand." She shivered. "It's stupid. I thought if I didn't look at him, he couldn't see me." Mara pictured a porch stoop. She pictured a man pressing his face to the peephole and putting his finger over it. She pictured breath, and hum, and a word like tomorrow chosen because it chased people into sleep. My mother used to leave voicemails, Mara said, surprising herself. Phone filled with them. Birthday reminders. Haircut suggestions. She died in March. Sometimes I call the number to hear the old messages. I don't know why I'm telling you that. Because we're both ghosts in the dumb modern way, Nora said. Devices remember us better than people do. They sat until the refrigerator chirped again and both jumped like students caught gossiping. I don't want to sleep here, Nora said. Is that pathetic? Self-preservation is never pathetic, Mara said. You can come to my place if you want. Or I can sit with you here. Or we can go to a diner and drink coffee that was made yesterday. Nora looked at her with a gratitude that was almost suspicious. Why are you nice? Mara shrugged. I'm allergic to leaving gaps where calls go. Nora took a breath she decided to trust. Diner, she said. I can pretend the clatter is normal. They left the house with its clean kitchen smell and its human hum stored in the corners like lightning bugs. Outside, night had rented the street again. The Asher's porch looked like a ruined stage. The pending sign squeaked a complaint and then shut up. As they reached Mara's car, Nora said, Do you think he meant it? What? Mara said. Tomorrow? He said it, Nora said. And then the calls were tomorrow. Do you think he meant, tomorrow again? Mara had not noticed she had been waiting for that. I think men who say tomorrow like to own more than one. They got coffee. They rehearsed the part of the night that had not killed them. They talked about their mothers, and who had taught them to cut onions with the knife facing away, and how you could hear whether a diner had been cleaned by ear. At 2 a.m., something like a tremor ran under Mara's skin habit. She glanced at the clock and told it to be boring. At 2:13 a.m., the bakery downstairs mixed batter. They took Nora home at 4, when her eyes refused to stay. Mara waited in the car until the porch light Nora's went on and then off. She drove home on an empty river of green lights and fell onto her couch in a shape that did not damage the couch. Sleep came and, like a man at a door, knocked politely, saying, Tomorrow. The tape didn't change. The messages didn't move. Only reality caught up. At 9:08 p.m., Mara's landline rang. The second call. Same woman. Same breath. Same hum. Nora was back at the kitchen table. The police had done a drive-by to make everyone feel efficient. Mara persuaded her to keep the phone on speaker and set it on the table so the tape could hear the day catch up with it. The man at the door knocked and said Nora's name like he'd practiced. Nora did not open. The hum stayed under it all like an understudy who liked his role too much. The sirens we've took the hum away. The police said we'll follow up in voices that believed the man would be new in the database and wanted to be wrong. Between calls, Mara combed the estate sale house. She found an old phone jack outside by the porch, the kind people used to run to a screened in summer. She found the answering machine itself in a box labeled electronics that the cash box woman had kept aside for e-waste. Vox 120. The same model as the tapes. She unscrewed the back, found a battery with an old date and the smell of cheap metal. She brought it home and set it on her table like a chapel. At midnight she plugged it in. The little red light woke. The clock flashed 12 o'clock. She set it to 12:14 because she believed you should either be exact or not. She put the August 27th to September 2nd tape in and hit play and listened to the electronic woman tell her Sunday, August 27th, while time, unreconciled, insisted it was still Sunday. At 12:16 a.m., the Vox's digital display flickered. It ticked forward to 12:17 and then back to 12:16 in a stutter that had nothing to do with power fluctuations. She'd put it on a conditioner. It did it again. Forward. Back. Like a person learning to say tomorrow and mispronouncing it under their breath first. She unplugged it. She said to the kitchen, "No." The kitchen agreed, by virtue of not being a person. At 3:07 a.m., her cell buzzed. "Nora," he knocked 3x, then whistled a song. Like a lullaby. "I'm going to throw up." Mara typed, "Record it next time. Don't open. He wants tomorrow. Make it today for him, no." "Nora, you sound like a therapist who hates time." Mara, accurate. By day 3 she had the hum mapped. It lived in walls. It lived in men. It lived in any place a threat wants to be music. She pressed her ear to the Asher's porch rail while the realtor measured the living room for a fresh coat of white. She heard something in the wood, a long, low coil that remembered voices. "You've reached the Ashers. Leave your message. Tomorrow." She walked the block. She listened at fences, at transformers, at stop signs that knew the names of boys who liked to drum their rings against metal. The city's hum is a chorus in the key of existence: elevators, power lines, bees. The man who said tomorrow was not in it, not during day. At night, he found the same key. That means a person who listens for rooms chosen by accident, or a person who used to live in the neighborhood and learned the way sound bounces off the Asher's gable. She pulled the police report for the Ashers and learned what anyone with a library card could: Beatrice Asher had died in her upstairs bed. Jim had followed 3 months later, who cares how. The house was empty. Prior callers to 911 in the last 6 months, 2, both noise complaints. One was Nora. The other, across the street, a man who believed the wind shouted words. Mara called him. "Do you remember the night you called?" He did. He named the shape of the wind, which was not a shape; he named the sound of the word, which was tomorrow, and the way it is a mouthful of R's that flattens at the end like O, like a surprise that repeats. "Did you see anyone?" she asked. "I saw a door," he said, regretful. "It didn't open. I saw a porch light that wasn't on. Do you know how bright a thing can feel off when it's off?" Yes, she thought. I do. The 4th day, the calls came again. Nora sounded less like a person in peril and more like a person practicing lines in a play. "He's outside," she said, flat as homework. "He said tomorrow." The siren came and braided itself into the noise. The hum tried to find a note higher than it had been and failed. "Not tonight," Mara said. "Not tonight, not tomorrow." "Stop saying tomorrow," Nora said. "It makes me feel like I'm trapped in a word find." "Word finds end," Mara said, "liar and friend, both." The 5th day, the FBI called. They didn't say FBI but they said federal, and their email addresses had enough letters to deserve it. Would Ms. Lyons be so kind as to share the original magnetic tape media? Would Ms. Lyons help them verify time code? Would Ms. Lyons be available for a statement? Ms. Lyons would and wouldn't. She brought the tape, and a copy, and the Vox 120, and a mapped frequency analysis that would have earned her a gold star in 10th grade science. A man in a suit who didn't look right in it said the words you say when you want cooperation: "Thank you, important, your expertise." A woman in a suit who looked as if she had been born in one asked the right question. "What do you hear that isn't the person?" "The room," Mara said. "A small kitchen with a tile floor. A front door with poor insulation. A man who hums because he hears whatever he thinks is funny in his own throat. He's not local to the block. He doesn't have city hum on him." The suited woman cocked her head the way you do when you hear a good instrument. "And time?" "The machine says Sunday before Sunday. The calls come Sunday. Then Monday before Monday. It breaks if you try to hold it. So don't." The woman wrote something down that might have been don't and might have been hold. Do you think it's copyable? She asked. What? Mara said. Time? Tactics, the woman said. Make a person scared tonight by telling them tomorrow belongs to us. It's old, Mara said, surprised by the certainty in her mouth. It feels older than this man. He found the crack under the door the house left him. He's using a trick he thinks he invented. The woman closed her notebook. We'll sit on the block tonight, she said. You stay out of it. Mara did not respond, which is a kind of promise. That night the man whistled a tune that made Nora's fingers clench. Mara recorded it off Nora's phone and ran it against lullabies, advertising jingles, stadium chants. It wasn't anything. It was what people do when they want you to think something is something you should know. On the 7th night, he didn't come. The tape still had messages. The answering machine's clock ticked tomorrow into being. The little red light blinked without a heart behind it. The 8th night he returned and said, very softly, now. Nora didn't call 911 for 4 minutes because she had fallen asleep on the couch with socks on and a hand in a bowl of almonds, and waking is a stretch over a pit some nights. She did call. The siren came. The hum left. The woman from the suits called Mara on a number she shouldn't have. He keeps missing us, she said without complaint. Which means he watches the watchers or he is the watchers. Or he's the hum, Mara said, mostly to be difficult and because difficult is sometimes a way to keep fear from becoming official. Stay put, the woman said. That's the only sentence I say in a day that never works. Tomorrow, Mara said, and hung up. She couldn't sleep. She listened to the digitized tape with headphones that cupped her ears like a gloved hand, and stared at the Dawes spectrogram until it ceased to be information and became a curtain. At 2:13 a.m., the bakery downstairs breathed batter again. She took the headphones off with care and put her feet on the floor in a ritual you could call brave if you were feeling generous. The Vox 120's clock, unplugged, unbattered, flashed in the kitchen, 12 o'clock. It should not have. She watched it until 12 o'clock became 12:01 without power. She watched it go to 12:02 and then back to 12:01 and then rest its little red bars like someone panting before a punchline. Okay, she said. Okay. She unplugged the Vox from the wall it wasn't plugged into and put a tea towel over it and went back to bed like a person declaring victory after being mauled by a polite bear. On the 9th day, the calls stopped. Mara waited for the evening ring and felt half shame and half relief. Nora texted quiet and I think he's bored and or he fell in love with someone else and lol and then that's not funny. Mara replied with a meme of a man trying to unlock a door with a spoon. At 10:22 p.m., someone knocked on Mara's door. Not a neighbor. Not the sloppy knock of a delivery. Not the 3-rap cop knock. A gentleman knock, knuckles applied with regard. She stood very still in the middle of her living room and did the arithmetic you do angle to door, weight of footsteps, any neighbors with television on who would witness the error with you. Ms. Lyons, a man's voice. The hum in it. Mara? She pressed her palm to her sternum to keep her heart from shooting upward like a frightened bird. Who is it? Tomorrow, he said, and the word hit the door like a damp cloth. She sucked air in, slow, and kept it. He knocked again, tender. Mara, he said, pleased to know her name. Now. She took her cell and texted Nora, he's at my place, call 911, 1200 Waverly, 3F, don't text back. She put her hand on the knob and then took it back. He hadn't touched the peephole. She looked through it. The hallway outside was a cheap rug with coffee stains, a window that discharged light the way an old battery does. A man stood slightly to the side of the peephole, the way you do when you have learned peepholes. He wore a jacket with no weather in it. He held his hands at his sides like someone making an argument to the air. Mara, he said, conversational. I know you can hear me. Tomorrow. 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 It is a dumb word if you say it enough. He said it until it cracked. He said it until it sounded like tomorrow, which is a threat if you love bones. Go away, she said, steady. You have the wrong door. I had the wrong door 9 times, he said, reasonable. This is the right door. Tomorrow. Sirens. City sirens. Closer. The hum in his voice dropped a half step, irritation or excitement. He knocked once more, patient. He put his finger over the peephole and leaned in to the seam his finger made, and Mara held very still so her breath would not betray how close she stood. Mara, he whispered at the edge of the door like a man telling a secret to a child. Tomorrow is now. Men with uniforms like midnight came and said things through the door. The man at the seam stayed very quiet while they did. He did not breathe. He did not hum. He had learned when to be microphone and when to be room. Ma'am, a cop called gently. Step back. She did. The man at the seam stepped away, smooth. The door opened. The men filled the hallway and made it feel safe for a second, the way filling a hole with water makes it safer until you think about drowning. He wasn't there. He was in the stairwell, maybe. He was in the apartment across the hall, maybe. He was in her kitchen, maybe, because now he lived in everything that held space. They took statements. They did forms. They left. The hallway breathed empty again. The Vox in the kitchen, covered, flashed 12 o'clock once and then went dark like a little animal finally sleeping. Mara unplugged it, to humor herself, and took it to the closet and put it on the shelf behind the winter scarves, not because closets are safe but because her mother had taught her to put old things where you can forget them without disrespect. Her cell chimed. Nora, you okay? Mara, tomorrow. Nora, screw that word. Mara, amen. She didn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table with the tape deck in front of her like a seance and put on the first answering machine tape again. She listened to the woman's pleas with more oxygen in it, to the hum with less confidence, to her own voice in the room saying don't be clever to a person she had not met. At 2:13 a.m., the bakery downstairs mixed batter because that was what batter wanted. The oven made a sound of heat being instructed. The street hummed. The courthouse clock 3 blocks away miscounted and then corrected itself like an old man who hates being wrong. Her landline rang. She looked at it the way a person looks at an animal that has learned a new trick without an owner. She picked up. Yes. Silence again. Then not Nora. Her mother. Junebug, her mother said, voice bent by age into sweetness. Did I wake you? You always hated when I called at midnight. It's not midnight, it's 10. I always get it wrong. Mara closed her eyes and put her finger in her eye socket like that could stop a tear from making itself. Mom? It's almost your birthday, her mother said, fond. I wanted to leave a message so I'd have the time right when you played it. You always play them at the wrong time. That's okay. A laugh. Warm. Human. Tomorrow. That's when I'll call proper. Tomorrow. The line clicked. The automated voice, message received. The machine's voice had learned how to be inside her head. Mara put the phone down very carefully. She put her head on the table. She did not weep. She let the word tomorrow pass through her like a train that was not stopping in this town tonight. When morning gave her permission, she took the tapes to the woman in the suit, Agent Late. She learned, first named Tamsin like a pointed toy and said, it's not just Nora. It's everything that you can create with a mouth and a clock. She told them about her mother's voice. She told them about the Vox making time without a plug. She told them about the hum that men swallow when they want to invent a threat. Do you want a counselor? Tamsin late asked, not weak, not steel, something in between that sounded like a room you could nap in. No, Mara said. I want tomorrow to shut up. Copy, Tamsin said, and you could tell she would write tomorrow in a notebook and underline it and give it to a team who would look at it as if it could confess. Days learned to pass again. Nora slept in her own bed with a dog she adopted from a shelter because shelters are full of hearts in need of work. The man did not come back. Or he did and learned that knocking on doors on a block where men in suits made day into a project was less fun. Or he moved to a different word. Mara put the Vox in a box and took it to the river in the way stories tell you to take rings to places. She did not throw it. She set it on the shore the way you set a saucer out for a stray cat who has learned not to come. She watched the water consider the box. She went home. She kept the tapes. She labeled them with her neat archivist letters the way you name bones. She sometimes took them down and listened to a woman ask for help and to men saying they were on their way. She listened to her mother make tomorrow into a gift that never arrived and finally didn't need to. She let the word lose the shape that hurt. She taught it another. Tomorrow became the day she called Cam and said, "Coffee?" Tomorrow became the day she let herself go to the bakery and ask for a thing she would not have ordered before March. Tomorrow became a place she didn't hold in her throat like a secret and more a little hand you hold on a sidewalk. One night, months later, she woke at 2:13 a.m. out of reflex, and laid there, and heard nothing but the bakery being bread and the neighbors being asleep and her own body being a room no one had knocked on in a while. She went to the kitchen, took a tape down, held it without playing it. She set it on the table and said, "Stay." It stayed. She turned off the porch light she didn't have and went back to bed and slept until tomorrow became today and did not feel like a threat in the shape of a calendar. And if, sometimes, at the edge of sleep, a hum began under everything 146 Hz and then 164 and then 146 again, she breathed with it until it got bored and went somewhere else. Because the trick men think they invent is always older than them. Because time will not do your bidding no matter how charming a voice you give it. Because answering machines are devout, they keep what you tell them to keep. She told hers this. Message, no. Date, now. Time, enough.